In the Grote Market, new offices and works for the Evening Chronicle and the Journal were completed in 1965. The Old Town Hall is in the background. Housing in the Blandford Street area was cleared. Phoenix expanded into Brunswick Place. In 1958, it was calculated that of 88,000 houses in the city, 10,000 would have to be cleared, and a further 15,000 needed minor improvements pending clearance. This was a drastic state of affairs, and speed was essential. The problems created by the necessity to rehouse so many people, combined with the shortage of land, appeared to have been solved by the use of system-built tower blocks, which were relatively cheap and could be erected quickly. By late 1960, 19 tower blocks were under construction throughout the city, and by 1968, 42 blocks were occupied. These examples were built at Shieldfield, just east of the city centre, in 1963. It wasn't until years later that the social and other problems inherent in this type of housing began to appear. They were disliked by many older people and by families with young children. Although the council had built some low-rise housing along with the tower blocks, by the 1970s the latter were falling out of favour and more emphasis was being placed on varied and community-orientated housing, such as that at Byker. But by the end of the 1960s, most of the crumbling 19th century flats had gone. The 1960s had been a decade of immense change in the fabric of the city, which at this time was described as a potential Brasilia of the North. The skyline was a forest of tower cranes, as new housing replaced old, new roads cut through the city, and new office buildings sprang up in its centre. This film, made in about 1970 for the council, is essentially a promotional effort for the city, and shows some of the changes which had taken place over the previous decade. The concrete and glass slab of Swan House, opened in May 1970, is rather unkindly bracketed between shots of the medieval cathedral, keep and Black Gate, and the classical splendour of the Granger development of the 1830s. The superb Theatre Royal, Exchange Buildings and Gray's Monument. King's College, which had become the University of Newcastle in 1963, expanded at speed along both sides of Claremont Road. The Civic Centre, with its circular council chamber and external sculptures, was begun in 1960 and opened in 1968. It was a symbol of the new city and an expression of its revitalized local government. Six to Midnight was produced by the Amber Films Cooperative for the City Council in 1973. The film is an impressionistic account of a day in the life of the city and its people, using natural sound.
Right. A mainly dry day with a good deal of thin cloud about at times, but some sunny spells during the day everywhere.
The indoor Granger Market, opened in 1835, is still providing a service to the city.
Just a minute, love. Give us a bookmark, will you? Oh, yes, just lend us a bit. Just put it on. Thank you. Mrs. Doherty.
Mrs. Samuelson, 3 pence.
Right,
I'll tell her, yes. 97. I'll tell her now. I'll tell her now.
The large open hall is the vegetable market. Spiller's Flour Mill on the East Quayside. The Central Arcade, with its superb faience tiling, was opened in 1906 after a fire had gutted most of Exchange buildings. They had once contained an art gallery and a small concert hall. Northumberland Street, the city's main shopping street since the 1880s. A panorama from Gray's Monument. The street facades of many of the major buildings in the city centre had recently been cleaned. High Bridge and the Big Market, then as now the focus of the city's nightlife. We hope that you've enjoyed this selection of films on Newcastle upon Tyne, and that they've brought back some memories of the city as it used to be.